Hey everyone, welcome back. It's that time once more for the Gacha Guide. And our next topic here on FGO NA. If you want to know whether you should roll for her, we will be talking about the Majin Okita Souji altar. We'll be covering all the points that you see on screen, so let's start by jumping into her stats, shall we? Okitan here is a 5-star AoE alter ego servant, meaning that she does extra damage against casters, riders, assassins, and berserkers, and is weak to nothing. However, she will only deal 50% damage against the knight classes of Saber, Archer, and Lancer. Now, as for her stats, at level 90 she has 12,465 attack, easily making her the highest alter ego attack in the game until King Protea comes out, and puts her easily in the top 10 of attack stats of all servants in the game. Her HP at level 90 is 12,696, which is relatively low compared to her peers and low overall for a 5 servant, but that's because her attack stat is so monstrous. As for her hidden stats, she has 0.77% NP gain on hit. This is around 2.25% higher than the average. And as for her cards, she has 5 hits on Quick, 3 on Arts, 3 on Buster, 5 on her Extra, and 7 on her Noble Phantasm. These above average hit counts, combined with her decent NP gain per attack, makes it very easy for her to charge her own Noble Phantasm with her cards. Her star weight, aka how easy it is for her to get critical stars onto her cards, is at 99. This puts her on the average. Her star creation sits at 10.2%. This is around average, a little above average. It's decent, so she can provide some stars for herself as well. Especially when we look at her deck in Noble Phantasm, we have 2 Quick cards, 1 Arts card, and 2 Buster cards with her deck. This is our standard 2-1-2 that focuses on Quick cards over the Arts cards and gives us the 2 Buster cards for nice damage. Her Noble Phantasm, Zekken Mukyusandan, the Decisive Blade, Eternity 3-step, is an AoE Buster Noble Phantasm that deals damage to all enemies, along with reducing the enemy's Buster resistance for 3 turns based on the overcharge between 30 and 50%. But it is very important to note that unlike some other Noble Phantasms out there, this Buster resistance reduction occurs after the Noble Phantasm deals damage instead of before, meaning her Noble Phantasm actually doesn't hit as hard as you might think. Moving on, let's go to her passives. She has 2 passives. She has Magic Resistance B, giving her 17.5% extra debuff resistance, and Independent Action A, giving her an increase in 10% critical damage. Bleh, I said that weird. Anyway, of these 2, you're going to care about Independent Action. It is a high-ranking Independent Action, so that's very nice, and she already has very high attack stats, so those criticals are going to hit that much harder. Now, let's move on to her skills. First off, we have Kyokuchi. This is a nice little 3-turn buff that increases the effectiveness of both her Buster and her Quick cards for 3 turns, between 20 to 30%. This is very nice because it affects 4 out of 5 of her deck cards and her Noble Phantasm. That's 5 out of 6 of her total ways to deal damage get buffed. Very, very good. Next up, we have her second skill, Fudan. This increases her MP gauge, just a nice little self-charge, along with increasing her critical star gather rate for that turn. So, while the NP gain is relatively small, only 20 to 30%, the critical star gather rate for that turn is a nice little extra buff to make up for it being somewhat average NP gain, and allows her to set herself up for really good critical attacks. And finally, her last skill, we have Muhen. This is very simply a NP strength gain for 1 turn between 20 and 30%, and giving her a 1-hit evasion that lasts for 3 turns. This is kind of weak. If she had a harder hitting Noble Phantasm, then this would be great. If the evasion was at least 2 hits instead of just 1, this would be great. But otherwise, it is kind of a trying to do multiple things, but not really succeeding at either of them very well kind of skill, unfortunately. Moving on, what materials do we need for these skills? Well, this is fantastic news. She is one of the easiest 5-star servants in the entire game to max her skills on. So, unlike other servants who have their standard array, she sticks with gems all the way up through level 6. Once you get to level 7, you start getting your material costs, but her material costs are incredibly low. She only takes 8 octuplet crystals, 8 eternal frosts, 9 cursed beast gallstones, and 9 divine wines. So if you're already fine on gems, she's easily one of the easiest 5-star servants in the entire game to max out skills on. So let's compare her to other servants of her class. How does she stack up? Well, as an AoE damage-oriented alter ego, her current main competition is Seshoing Kiara and Passion Lip. So Okita beats both of them out in her normal card effectiveness, her base stats, and everything, with the exception of not being able to quite out-tank them. But the unfortunate thing is that her Noble Phantasm damage is surprisingly quite low. While she can generally possibly do Passion Lip in damage, she can outdo her. Not only does Kiara tend to, if not equal, but surpass her damage, Kiara also has looping potential on her Noble Phantasm, which Okita has no possibility of doing. So at the end of the day, Kiara still sits on top of the AoE alter ego throne and will not be dethroned for quite some time. In fact, probably not going to be dethroned at all, considering her next competition won't quite make it either. As for my personal opinion, she's super hot. I mean, look at her. Top tier waifu material. Just, okay hand and a half. But unfortunately, her performance is a little disappointing. Her regular cards are great. She has good MP gain, star gen's decent, she can crit decently. But her Noble Phantasm, the big attraction, the thing that you look for in most of your performance for a damage-dealing servant, is really weak. Combining the fact that alter egos do not have 2 times damage, but only 1.5 damage to cavalry classes, it means that there's a lot of enemies out there that can have as low as 60,000 HP that will survive a Noble Phantasm from her, and you'll need to have a follow-up turn to finish cleaning them up. She deals well with low to mid-tier enemies, but anything that is starting to break past mid-tier, starting to get to higher tier in health, is going to survive a Noble Phantasm, and that makes her feel really underperforming in the situation where you want to just use her to clear out a wave. Especially when she has one skill completely dedicated to her MP damage and a nice buster performance skill. Her MP damage really, really holds her back from being a great servant. But hey, most people don't roll for gameplay, most people roll for whether they're a waifu or a husbando, so I know you're gonna roll for Okita, right? So what's your skill priority? What are we looking at here? So usually I suggest your MP charge, but with how weak her MP is, with how low the charge goes from just 20 to 30%, you can generally skirt away with just 20, maybe 25%, and I would suggest going for Kyokuchi as your first priority. This is because this empowers 5 out of 6 of her ways to deal damage. Almost 100% of her damage coming out is empowered by Kyokuchi. Now, if you have a Kaleidoscope, then you can leave Fudan at rank 1 and use that. If you have a max limit broken imaginary element, you can get it to rank 6 and be happy with that. If you really want to level it up, then Fudan will be your next priority, because Muhen doesn't really up your damage that much. Again, Okita Souji Alter is not meant for big NP damage, she is meant for big card damage, so Muhen you can leave as your lowest priority, due to her already weak NP only getting slightly stronger. Now, as for craft essences, As always, we have Kaleidoscope and Imaginary Element for your fast MPs, but if you want to deal damage, she is a card attacker rather than an MP machine, so you want to generally focus on that. So, in general, making her be able to get crits off more often, general attack buffs are the helpful things. So first off, we have Conversation on the Hot Sands. This will help out with a star gather rate that attaches itself to her to help her get those stars more effective, and increases her critical strength as well to make sure her criticals happen and hit harder. Moving on, we have Joint Recital. It increases her Buster card effectiveness, along with upping her critical strength to help her hit nice and hard. Next up, we have Golden Sumo Tournament. Gives us a high attack increase along with a 50% starting MP charge. If you still want to make sure to get her MP off but want to hit hard, then this is a good middle ground between those. And finally, if you want to try to clear out a stronger wave, if she's your best choice for it, your only AoE alter ego, understandable, we have the Black Grail. This will up her NP damage and more than likely give you what you need to finish off a wave that she's not quite able to handle. So let's talk about what servants to pair her with. Oh look, it's Waver. He has a 50% MP charge, attack up, and critical damage up, so this is a no-brainer. That's not even mentioning his defense up. Good job, Waver. Moving on, we have Merlin. He is our reliable Buster support, and with his support, even Okita Souji Alter can do some pretty hefty damage with her Noble Phantasm. Along with the potential for massive criticals from his hero creation, makes him a fantastic pick. Next up, we have Keiron. He has an all-card support up, along with critical damage up, to help Okitan deal even more damage with her cards, which she's already hitting pretty impressively hard, so that's really great. Next, if you need some cheap supports, we have Hans Christian Andersen. He's a good support here with a good attack up on his NP, a critical damage up, and star creation to help make sure that she can get those stars onto her cards. And finally, we have Shakespeare as a very powerful single-turn Buster buff, along with an ally NP charge that increases their star generation for one turn, allowing Okitan to make stars for herself and then follow up with a Noble Phantasm, followed by possibly some crits. So a quick little how to use. Okitan is best used for clearing groups of small enemies that are in the Cavalry class. She can be used as a semi-damage dealer with Buster down support on her Noble Phantasm as well. In general, you're going to want to use her first and third skill before her Noble Phantasm, and or using it for when you can guarantee a nice critical hit or two. And unlike most MP charges, you're going to want to save her MP charge for Star Gathering in order to try and guarantee a critical hit. So too long didn't watch. Okitan's pretty decent servant to roll for, a little underperforming, but overall good. She's cool and cute. Her effectiveness is, pretty good with easily leveled skills. She has strong cards and good stats. The only unfortunate part is her Noble Phantasm's very weak, which majorly lowers her strengths from what you generally want your servant to do. But hey, if you really need a good reason to roll for her, I've got one here right for you. She's a top-tier waifu. Just look at her. Look at her. How can you look at her and not want to roll for her? So let me know your opinions on Majin Okita. If you enjoyed this video, follow me on Twitch to see these recorded live, watch Fate Go gameplay and other games, join my Discord, and thanks very much for watching. Leave any questions below and I'll be sure to answer them. See you next time, everyone.